The bell-like sound woke me up. A strange beach stretched out before my eyes. "Hey, is everyone okay?" I called out instinctively. My friends' responses brought relief. Finally, I remembered our situation. It was the first day of our survival project on an uninhabited island, filming for our college group. We'd been so busy gathering resources until late that we ended up sleeping in a huddle without even setting up a proper camp. But why did I hear a bell? "Oh, that was my phone alarm," someone said. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been until that moment of relief. Come to think of it, this shoot had been a disaster from the start. Yesterday, the old fisherman who brought us to the island suddenly turned serious and said, "I can't let you go without telling you the truth. Locals avoid this island, saying it's cursed. Are you sure you want to go?" When one of us asked about the curse, he glared and said, "Those touched by the curse all wash up dead on the shore. How would I know the details?" We were all skeptical, but the atmosphere got to us. Even Takuchi wanted to go back. In the end, just before setting sail, the old man laughed and said it was all a joke, but it left us feeling uneasy. After that, we had nothing but trouble, camera batteries dying unexpectedly, no cell signal. It was one thing after another. "All right, let's secure water first," I said, standing up and giving instructions to the others. "We'll go to the spot the old man told us about. Then we'll gather the rest of the materials for our shelter." We split up the tasks, secured a water source, gathered bamboo, branches, and leaves, and managed to finish building our shelter before nightfall. It was a bit crooked and crude, but it had a roof, walls, and a simple door, a decent enough base. That night, something woke me up just past midnight. The clock showed it was a little after 2 a.m. Faintly, carried on the wind, I thought I heard a voice. "Sounds like something's out there," Yamada, who was sleeping next to me, muttered. The others seemed to have noticed the sound too. We held our breath and listened. At first it was hard to make out, but gradually it became clearer. "Would thou open?" Something was circling our shelter, whispering these words. As we listened motionless, I suddenly realized what it was saying. "Wouldst thou have me open?" It was asking if it should open the door. The voice grew closer, now seemingly right outside our shelter. It was a low, distorted voice that didn't sound human. It was as if multiple voices were overlapping. We held our breath, looking at each other. I could tell everyone felt the same fear. Suddenly, we heard a chuckling sound from outside. "Ha ha ha! You guys are such scaredy cats!" Incredibly, it was the voice of that old fisherman. For a moment, we all relaxed, letting out sighs of relief. "Hey, old man, that's enough already." As I said this, I opened the door. The fisherman wasn't there. Instead, in the moonlight, there was an indescribable shadow. It spread across the ground like a living thing, writhing. It wasn't human-shaped, just a pitch-black mass squirming like a snake. The shadow slowly flowed into our shelter. At that moment, something snapped inside me. I immediately bolted out of the shelter. I ran without looking back. I was aiming for the beach, but I must have taken a wrong turn. Running through the underbrush, I tripped over what might have been a tree root. After falling, I was too scared to get up. Desperately trying to quiet my ragged breathing, I curled up and listened. Overwhelmed by fear, I clung to what felt like a nearby tree root and squeezed my eyes shut. As time passed, anger mixed with my fear. Why wasn't anyone coming to look for me? Did they only care about saving themselves? I gritted my teeth, cursing the one who came up with this idea. If that bastard Takata hadn't suggested it, I wouldn't be in this mess. In the confusion of anger and fear, I must have fallen asleep at some point. Suddenly, I thought I heard someone calling me and woke up. It was morning. I remembered the situation. As I tried to stand up, I noticed what I was clinging to. It was beautiful. A stone like polished jade, seemingly pulsing in my hand. I heard the calling voices again in the distance. It was the others from the island. I instinctively shrank back. Fear gripped my chest. What if they tried to take this stone from me? Carefully, I hid the stone in my clothes and crawled away quietly. After putting some distance between us, I headed towards them on my own. "Oh, are you all right?" They greeted me with what seemed like fake smiles. Their expressions made me sick to my stomach. "We were worried when you ran out of the shelter alone," someone said. They all seemed to be treating last night's events lightly. "Must have been a weasel or something making that noise." "Ha ha, but you were pretty scared, weren't you?" I couldn't contain my anger. They were all mocking me. Let's end the shoot," I said. "We've had equipment troubles, and I've twisted my ankle." They looked annoyed, but eventually agreed. Yamada called the old fisherman, who said he'd come pick us up after he finished fishing. The boat came to get us in the afternoon, but until then, I was so pissed off I couldn't stand being around them. Leaving me behind and now pretending to be worried? What bullshit, a weasel? Give me a break. I'm the only one who experienced true terror. There's no point in being with these heartless bastards, making a fool out of me. I'll never forgive them. Next time, I'll be the one laughing. You can all just disappear for all I care. Hatred and thoughts of revenge swirled in my mind. The final straw was that damned old fisherman's words. "Ha ha. What's this? Did my little ghost story scare you that much?" he said with a smirk. I almost lashed out at him right there. His monologue ended, leaving a heavy silence in the private room of the cafe. He stood up without a word and left. I was confused. His story and attitude were so unnatural I couldn't shake the feeling that some crucial information was missing. As I spoke up, the man sitting across the table raised his head. This was Mr. Yamada, who was said to be the only one still in contact with him. "Actually, we still have the footage from that day," Mr. Yamada said, pulling out a tablet and playing a video. The screen showed the inside of the shelter at night. They must have started filming on the spot, thinking it'd make for good content when they heard the noise. The image was grainy due to low light, but you could still make out what was happening. There was a rustling sound, and everyone was seen straining to listen. Then he suddenly stood up, muttering loudly, "Hey, old man, that's enough already," before throwing open the shelter door and running outside. As I watched the video, I asked about something that had been bothering me. "Could you hear the voice saying, 'Wouldst thou have me open?'" Mr. Yamada silently shook his head. "What about the fisherman's voice? As you can see in the video, we didn't hear anything." The next scene showed the misty morning on the deserted island. Figures were moving among the trees. Then a voice called out, "Hey, I found him! Over here!" The camera panned to show him huddled at the base of a tree. "Are you okay? Hey, say something!" His friends were calling out to him, sounding worried. After a while, he slowly raised his head. His eyes were vacant, and he was clutching something tightly. The camera clearly captured what was in his hands. When I saw it, I gasped. The screen clearly showed the object in his hands. It looked like a small human hand, dried and blackened, almost mummified. Between the unnaturally bent fingers, you could see thin, dried membranes. He seemed unaware of his surroundings as he stumbled to his feet and walked away. A little while later, he came back acting as if nothing had happened, insisting vehemently that they should leave. "Oh, well, if you're that set on it, I guess we can go home, right? Right?" The cameraman's voice could be heard checking with the others as the video ended. "That thing he was holding?" I began to ask. Mr. Yamada, his face expressionless, just shook his head silently. His eyes betrayed no emotion. We asked the fisherman about it later, but he just laughed and said, "There's no curse on that island," he said flatly. I wanted to ask more questions, but I could tell from Mr. Yamada's demeanor that I wouldn't get any more information out of him. His expression hinted at the complex feelings he had about how his old friend had changed.